COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
What exactly is social distancing?
To contain the deadly outbreak, the government was caught completely off guard.
Good evening.
I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
Welcome to the new normal.
So, would you mind introducing yourself then, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Matthew Farmer. I live in Pembrokeshire in West Wales.
What do you do?
I'm the owner and managing director of a small business, and we do leadership development and corporate volunteering support work for global companies.
How has the pandemic restricted what your company does?
Well, it's had quite a big impact on what we do as an organisation, because most of our work involves helping people to travel across international borders, to have experiences in person with community organisations and sort of small businesses and charities in different parts of the world. So the fact that most people can't travel very much, certainly can't travel internationally or in groups, means that the kind of work that we historically do has been really impacted quite severely.
Fact. After working with you, 81% of your clients said they feel more connected to their company's purpose. 89% felt increased pride in their organisation, and 92% customers recognised their experience led to a positive development within their company. How have you adapted emerging world to the restrictions of coronavirus while still maintaining the same impact of your company?
Well, for us, what we've been trying to do is basically take our offerings into the virtual world. So we've been innovating, designing around creating virtual experiences instead of the in-person experiences that we usually provide. So our first virtual experience actually kicked off about 4 weeks ago. I think it's taken people a little bit of time just to get used to the kind of learning style and format. Yeah. But now they're there, they're really valuing it and benefiting from it. So I had a couple of conversations this week actually with the managers of people who are participating in the program, and they said they've been getting really good reports. In this virtual world, we can try and still connect people with these organizations, but it's a little different if you don't travel. It's a little different if you don't get to meet these people face to face. You get to see the surroundings and in which they do. So, we'll have to see if we can have the same kind of impact, but that's certainly what we're trying to achieve.
In the future, do you hope that this online style of these courses and interactions, how do you hope in the future they will be able to be adapted so it feels like you're being more inclusive and you're really getting in there the same way that you do when you're actually there?
Yeah, well, I think it's a learning curve. It's a case of experimenting and trying things out to see if you can create similar kind of emotional power through virtual experiences. I mean, I think there are some great advantages. So one of the things is that we don't have to have people in the same physical location moving forward. So that means that you can bring lots of different people from lots of different places, into the same environment. There's lots of possibilities. I think in the end, people will still value wanting to do things face to face and in person. Some people more than others, I think.
So you think in the future there'll be a way to sort of combine the in-person experience and the Zoom sort of experience?
Yeah, I'm sure of that. I mean, I think there'll be a real demand for more virtual experiences because people will feel more comfortable with them. You don't have to travel. That reduces the cost, it reduces the time, it also reduces the environmental impacts. So there'll definitely be more demand for them. But when people do travel, they'll want a very special experience, I think, and kinds of quite unique experiences that we provide. I think corporate culture has to shift instead of a sort of thinking, oh, I've got to make the next quarter's profit, you've got to make the next quarter's profit. I think you just got to take a longer, more sustainable view in terms of the value that you create. And absolutely, you need to be profitable over the long term, but you don't need to be as greedy. You certainly don't need to be short-term focused, and it's much better to take a longer-term view.
Do you think your company will be able to incorporate this kind of idea of the long-term shift and sort of the change in people's perspectives of what is the future with?
Good question. I think if you spend time working with organisations that work with vulnerable communities, which people who come on the experiences that my organisation organise will get to see and understand, I think it starts to put things in perspective just about what's important in life. It starts to put things in perspective about the kinds of support that are needed, about the kind of work that needs to be done, and the sort of mindset that's required to be genuinely impactful. So I think those experiences would really help people.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
At home and smiling. But 4 weeks ago, Alan was fighting for his life in intensive care.
Would you mind introducing yourself then, please?
Hi, my name's Alan Dennison. I'm just turned 60 in July this year, and I'm a COVID survivor.
Would you mind telling me a little bit about your story with COVID?
My daughter was getting married in April, and my prospective son-in-law had arranged, or his best man had arranged, a stag weekend over in Bilbao. So we flew out in March, at which time there was no lockdown, there was no guidance from the government here not to go, this, that and the other, although Spain were having problems. And it was a bit of news. It made news here, but still didn't resonate with me how serious this COVID was. Jumped in the car and drove home. About 30 minutes into the journey, I developed this cough, which was continuous, and it was an annoying cough, and it was an unusual cough because it wasn't your typical cough. It sounded a bit more like croup that kids have. So it stopped after about half an hour for a couple of minutes, and I jokingly said to Ken, "Oh, I've got the lurgy, and if I've got it, you're going to get it now." And we laughed and joked, and nearly my temperature had now risen. Mandy had given me a thermometer so I could check my temps, and they were recording 39 to 40 plus. Continually coughing and totally fatigued. I just couldn't summon any energy whatsoever. I laid on the settee, I laid in the bed, I was sweating, I was boiling, I was freezing, and there was just no respite. And on the Friday, I gave up. Mandy kept insisting that I would ring 111 or ring the doctor, and I just said no, this thing will pass. And I came to Friday, and I couldn't get my breath. I was panting like a dog in the summer, continual, and it was just getting worse. I just could not get enough oxygen to satisfy my body's demands. So I rang 111, and I was laying on the settee, quite clearly remember, laying on the settee. I'd given in. I'd rang 111 because I was at the stage where I just wanted to die. So we went up to Withybush, and yes, there was a tent with sides flapping. I thought, this is weird. They hadn't even set the tent up, and there was a bed in there, funny enough, an unmade bed with a blower, presumably a heater, but this tent was half built, and there were people back and forth, and I thought, my God, surely they're not going to put me in there. Anyway, so I was there for 4 days anyway, and the doctor came in then, or consultant came in and said, we're very sorry, we're going to have to put you to sleep, put you on a ventilator and transfer you to intensive care. Great. That was I loved hearing those words, put to sleep, because that meant that somebody else would take over this problem from me that I seemed to be having to manage myself. It's a weird feeling to think that you're happy going into intensive care, but when you're at that lowest ebb, anything will be the best. So that's what they did. They said they were going to put me on this ventilator. So I was feeling quite happy and bright then, and then he turned around and he said, would you like to be resuscitated? Now that really hurt, because I thought, well, why? And he said, well, we just don't know which way this thing's going to go. It's 50-50, it could go either way. It was at that point that I really sobered up and thought, my God, I'm in trouble here. So if I don't go on the ventilator, I'll probably die. If I go on the ventilator, I've got a 50% chance of dying. So I did say at that stage, I said, oh yeah, please resuscitate me if need be. So he said, right, we'll be back in a minute. At which point they did come back and they said, right, we're going to put you to sleep now. And I said, whoa. I said, I'm not going to sleep yet. I said, I need to say goodbye to my wife. I said, if it's as serious as what you're saying, I've got to say cheerio to my wife and my daughter. So I rang my wife and my daughter. And we said goodbye. Mountains of tears. And the last thing I can remember was Manny saying, fight it. Fight it with everything you can. Ooh, so they put me to sleep, and that's it as far as my part of the story goes. I was in intensive care. They took me up to intensive care I was in there for 8 days, 8 nights, 8 days, on a ventilator. Mandy was getting phone calls twice a day saying that I was critical but stable. And then on the Thursday, the 2nd of April, she had a phone call to say Thursday morning that things weren't looking very good. Prepare for the worst. The organs were shutting down, and they would call back. That was Thursday morning. On Friday afternoon, the doctor rang her and said, I'm sorry for being so late. He said, but I wanted to make sure what was happening was actually happening. He said, but a miracle's happened, and Alan's pulled through, and he's recovering, and he's talked to the nurse, albeit very weakly, but he's turned the corner. Mandy came and picked me up, and I was in the wheelchair then. They wheeled me out to the front of the hospital, and it felt great. I felt absolutely great.
Have you got any words for us to end on for people who don't believe this virus is real and is a problem?
Okay, I was of the same opinion that it wasn't real, it wasn't a problem. I certainly believed that I was immune from any of these problems because I was a fit, reasonably young, healthy man. I certainly never, if you'd have said to me 12 months ago that I would have been in intensive care through a virus or a bug, I'd have laughed at you. It's a game of Russian roulette. You can go out and you can catch it, and you may be fine, and you may be, sadly, some are going to die. You just don't know which part of the spectrum you're going to sit on. So in terms of that, I would sincerely hope that people take this message, that it's true, it's here, it's now, and you need to stay safe and socially distance yourselves. And hopefully we can get through this by this time next year. If not, it's just going to keep going round and round and round in circles.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.